December 1948. On a quiet Australian beach, a man's body turns up without a name. Every clothing label erased, his pockets nearly empty, except for a torn scrap carrying two Persian words, Tamam Shud. These are the real cases that even official files cannot solve. When the clues seem too strange for reality, the consequences echo across generations. But what did investigators discover when they looked closer? Investigators cataloged every detail as they examined the man's body on the sand. The location was Somerton Park Beach, just south of Adelaide, in December 1948. No wallet, no papers, no name. But inside the waistband of his trousers, police found something odd, a tiny pocket expertly sewn, almost invisible from the outside. From this hidden compartment, they pulled a single scrap of paper. The words printed on it were unmistakable even to those unfamiliar with the language. Tamam Shud, Persian for ended or finished. The discovery was recorded in the official inquest file with a photograph of the scrap held in gloved hands, a detail that would puzzle investigators for decades. The man's appearance offered no answers. He wore a neatly pressed suit and polished shoes, but every label had been cut out with precision. The only other contents were a used train ticket to Henley Beach, a bus ticket to Glenelg, a pack of chewing gum, and an unused comb. Each item was listed in the coroner's report, but none pointed to an identity. The secret pocket and the paper inside became the centerpiece of the investigation. Detectives traced the phrase to the final page of a collection of Persian poetry, the Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam. But the book itself was nowhere to be found. The phrase Tamam Shud had been torn out and hidden deliberately. The evidence suggested planning. Someone had gone to great lengths to erase this man's past, leaving only a cryptic message as a clue. Forensic limits of the era meant the fabric, the ink, even the man's physical features could only be cataloged, not decoded. The question of who he was and why he was left on that beach would remain unanswered for years. The autopsy at Adelaide City Morgue offered little beyond speculation. Coroner John Barclay Bennett noted the man's organs were congested, his spleen 3 times normal size, but toxicology tests could not confirm the presence of any common poison. No traces of barbiturates or cyanide. The embalming process, carried out just days after discovery, sealed away what little biological evidence remained. Formaldehyde destroyed most of the DNA, making later forensic attempts nearly impossible. Clothing and personal effects were cataloged, but the suitcase he carried, retrieved from Adelaide railway station, yielded no usable leads. In 1986, a storage flood destroyed most original evidence. Only a plaster cast of the man's bust survived, created in 1949 for possible future identification. Decades passed before technology caught up to the mystery. In 2021, South Australian authorities exhumed the body, searching for answers in the fragments that time had spared. Forensic teams turned to the hair embedded in the plaster bust. Nuclear DNA was gone, but mitochondrial DNA, passed down through the maternal line, offered a faint signal. The resulting profile was compared against missing persons and genealogical records, but no conclusive match surfaced. The man's identity remained out of reach. Every scientific advance has run up against the same wall, lost evidence, degraded samples, and the limits of what can be known. The Tamam Shud case closes not with a solution, but with the boundaries of forensic science drawn in sharp relief. Even now, the man from Somerton Beach is both catalogued and unknown. On the morning of November 29, 1970, a hiker moving through the lower slopes of Isdal Valley near Bergen, Norway, spotted a strange shape among the rocks and brush. Police arrived to find the remains of a woman, her body lying on its back, hands clenched near her torso, the front of her clothing and skin blackened by intense fire. The ground around her was scorched in a rough oval, but the vegetation only a few feet away remained untouched. No accelerant containers were found, and the pattern suggested the fire had been controlled, burning hot and fast without spreading. Investigators documented every detail. The woman's face was unrecognizable, but her teeth and jaw were intact. Scattered around her were fragments of clothing, mostly synthetic fibers, all labels and identifying marks carefully cut away. A fur hat, partly melted, lay near her head. 2 plastic bottles, one smelling faintly of gasoline, sat just outside the burn zone. A packed lunch of sandwiches and fruit, untouched, rested nearby. The body was surrounded by personal items: a watch with the brand name scraped off, 2 earrings, a ring, and a broken umbrella. Attention quickly turned to her shoes. The souls matched a pair purchased from a shop in Stavanger, identified by a single surviving tag, one of the few clues not removed. Forensic photographers captured every angle of the scene, focusing on the altered garments and the deliberate removal of labels. Every object was bagged and cataloged, the evidence forming the first links in a trail that would soon cross borders and languages. The woman's identity remained as scorched as the earth beneath her, but investigators now had a starting point: a burned valley, a pattern of erasure, and the faint trace of a journey hidden in the details. Hotel ledgers in Bergen, Stavanger, and Oslo recorded the Isdal woman's movements, but each entry raised more questions than it answered. Over the course of just a few months, she checked in under at least 8 different names: Fenella Lork, Claudia Tielt, Genevieve Lancier, Vera Jarl, Elizabeth Leonhaufer, Claudia Nielsen, Alexia Zarna Merchez, and one more, each with a different birth date and nationality. Handwriting analysis confirmed that all the registration cards were filled out by the same person. The pattern was precise: never the same name twice in the same city, never a trace left behind. Clerks remembered her as polite, reserved, sometimes wearing a dark wig, always paying in cash. Investigators mapped her journey from hotel to hotel, city to city. In Bergen, she changed rooms twice in 3 days, citing drafts and noise. In Stavanger, her signature shifted slightly between check-ins, but the slanted script and looping L remained constant. The suitcases left at the Bergen railway station revealed more: receipts from Paris and Brussels, prescription eczema cream labeled in French, and a single shoe tag from a Stavanger shop, the only item with any traceable origin. Every alias pointed to a dead end. None matched any passport records in Norway, Belgium, or Germany. No family came forward. The ledgers, meant to document the ordinary, instead recorded the shape of a life designed to vanish. The contradictions in her paper trail left the case as open as the valley where she was found. At precisely 2:50 p.m. on November 24, 1971, Northwest Orient Flight 305 lifted off from Portland, bound for Seattle. The man in seat 18C handed a note to flight attendant Florence Schaffner, stating he had a bomb. He opened his briefcase just long enough for her to glimpse red cylinders and wires, then calmly dictated his demands: $200,000 in unmarked $20 bills and 4 parachutes. The request was relayed to the cockpit. Captain William Scott notified air traffic control, triggering a chain of calls between the airline, the FBI, and local police. As the plane circled over Puget Sound, ground teams scrambled to collect the ransom: 10,000 bills, each serial number recorded and packed into a canvas bag. Parachutes were sourced from a local skydiving school and an Air Force base. At 5:39 p.m., the aircraft touched down in Seattle. The passengers were released, but the crew remained. A package containing the cash and 4 parachutes was brought aboard. The hijacker checked the bills, counted the parachutes, and ordered the crew to refuel. He kept his sunglasses on. The flight manifest, later released by the FAA, recorded every name except his real one. With the cabin sealed and the ransom delivered, the next phase began. 8 years after the hijacking, a boy digging in the sand along the Columbia River uncovered 3 bundles of decaying $20 bills. The serial numbers matched those recorded by the FBI in 1971, part of the original ransom handed to the man known as D.B. Cooper. The bills, matted together by mud and time, offered the first physical trace since the night Cooper vanished. Forensic teams cataloged every detail: the location, the depth below the surface, the condition of the rubber bands. But the find only deepened the puzzle. No footprints, no parachute, no other evidence appeared nearby. Attention shifted to the black clip-on tie Cooper left on his seat before jumping. FBI technicians examined the tie under microscopes to search for trace evidence invisible to the naked eye. Titanium particles, rare earth metals, and minute flakes of aluminum clung to the fibers. Materials consistent with work in advanced aerospace or chemical manufacturing. Despite exhaustive analysis, the tie revealed no fingerprints, no DNA, and no conclusive link to any suspect. The bills and the tie remain the only tangible pieces of the mystery. Each has been tested, retested, and archived, but neither has brought investigators any closer to the truth. The case stands open, its last clues as silent as the riverbank where the money was found. Some cases refuse to yield to time or technology. Today, advanced DNA and digital forensics still leave these mysteries unsolved, reminding us that certainty remains elusive. In a world obsessed with answers, these shadows persist. Sometimes, the truth hides in plain sight. Share your theory in the comments below.